We are continuing on in Chapter 1, looking at another example of an asset acquisition. As we saw in Exercise 2, asset acquisition means we are acquiring the net assets of another company. And once the one-time journal entry is completed, the entity that has been purchased ceases to exist and there's one remaining legal entity. Starting in Chapter 2, we'll shift gears and look at what happens when we acquire the stock and two entities remain as separate legal entities. Let's go ahead and look at problem 4. In this case, Kiln is considering the acquisition of Williams. And as you see from the template that I have on my screen, we're going to look at two scenarios. Okay? Whether it's purchased by issuing stock or purchased for cash is not the significance here. I mean, they both could say they're purchased for cash. The key point of this problem is the difference in the value that's conveyed versus the fair value of the underlying net assets that are being acquired. That's the key point here. So in the first example, in part 1, they are issuing 20,000 shares of their stock. And remember, as we did in Exercise 2, we want the fair market value of that, which is 25. So the total consideration being paid is 500,000. And for that, we are acquiring accounts receivable that have a value of 50,000 from the balance sheet. The inventory, you'll notice, has a market value different from its book value, so we use the market value. The land also has a differing market value, so we use that. The building as well. The accounts payable is taken directly from the trial balance because the market value does not differ there. And if we sum the value of these items, we see that we acquired 420. Paying 500,000 for that 420 implies that there is goodwill associated with the purchase of 80,000. And that should be very similar to what we did in the first exercise. So then we would complete the journal entry by recording the actual assets acquired, as well as the liability in this case for accounts payable. Notice the goodwill is included in the entry. And again, in the entry, the only reason that we have common stock and paid in capital is because that is the method of payment. So it's a payment issue, strictly. And that completes the entry for the first scenario. Now we're going to shift gears and do another example with a different price paid. In this case, the price paid is cash, but like I said, that's not the primary factor. And when you fill in the value, you'll notice that I am using the exact same amounts as the prior example, because what we pay, whether we're paying at a goodwill position or a bargain position, doesn't change the fact that we still record everything at fair market value. So we still have a total fair market value of 420, but in this case, because we paid less than the fair market value, we actually have a gain. In essence, we got a bargain in this scenario, and therefore the acquisition method, according to GAAP, says we record the total fair market value of the underlying assets acquired and recognize an immediate gain for the difference. So you'll notice that all of the tangible assets, accounts receivable, inventory, land, etc., are receiving their full value. Accounts payable is at its full value. The cash in the entry then is the payment method, and we record the gain of 35,000 and the entry balances. So hopefully this problem, as well as Exercise 2, give you some great examples to complete Chapter 1 work.